What would Count Verandis do in this situation? Fancy meeting you here, friend. I hope you're not here for the auction at the Valente Vineyards. I'm certain the event bodes ill, but I'm reluctant to enter that nest of vipers alone. Would you be willing to join me? For ample compensation, of course. It isn't just any auction. It's run by and for vampires. Being a vampire myself, I can't help but wonder why Lord Gallio Valente, vineyard owner and vampire coven leader, wants to sell wine to other vampires. It's not like we partake of the stuff. Not exactly. I was hunting a violent vampire gang called the Terrors when I found an invitation to the auction. Inviting vampires to such an event is strange enough, but offering this Vesper Valente vintage? That has me concerned. Will you help me? First, let's look around the vineyard. I want to examine the grapes they grow here. Besides, it's a good idea to get a feel for the grounds before we head into the auction. Never fear. This is exactly what House Ravenwatch trained me for. It's been in the Valente family for generations. From what I was able to ascertain, Lord Valente inherited the place about a year ago. Seems he returned from a long trip and his father suddenly fell ill and died. Now the place is under his control. According to the invitation I found, yes. And not just any vampire. He's the leader of a powerful coven, which is why this whole affair concerns me. Ravenwatch has never heard of this coven or Valente before. And a wine auction? It makes no sense. As I said, I was trying to pick up the trail of the Terrors, violent vampires that were last seen heading toward the Weald when I found the invitation. Another troublesome vampire I was forced to deal with had it among his possessions. You mean besides the fact that it was addressed to a dangerous vampire and supposedly invited them to an auction they have absolutely no reason to be interested in? When things appear to make no sense, I feel obliged to find clarity. Oh, the usual. Advancing my studies, investigating for House Ravenwatch. I must say, I do like Westweald's climate. Much less damp and chilly than what we have over in Rivenspire. I will tell Adusa and Gwendis I ran into you, though. For you and I, friend? Not at all. You know we follow a strict code. We take no blood by force, help those in need, and do our best to curtail hostile vampires. Assist me in those efforts here, as you have in the past, and I shall be grateful. You lead while I look around. Right behind you, friend. An injured field hand. Let's find out what happened.
This is no place to wander aimlessly, traveler. The foul beasts are vicious and hungry for blood. Ugliest hounds Drovir has ever seen. This one just finished checking the new grapes and was on his way to the auction when it came out of nowhere. Ripped up Drovir's leg real good. Drovir thought the request was strange too, but Lord Valente insisted, and Lady Valente specifically told Sentry Helvius to let the servants in, even if we didn't have the fancy invitations. If you're here for the auction, you should head inside. He came back from his travels different. Even his father was concerned about the changes in his beloved son. But shortly after young Gallio returned, his father fell ill and died. Gallio inherited the vineyard, the title, and all that entailed. Just that he invited some important guests. He's been working on the new grapes for a special vintage since he returned, and he's very proud of it. Says it's going to make him even more rich and powerful. Can that be possible? This one is unsure. Lord Valente developed the new seeds in his alchemical laboratory under the manor. They grow thorny vines that bear a crimson grape unlike anything Drovir has ever seen before. Once the first vintage was ready, Lord Valente set up this auction. Lord Valente's new wife, a high elf with a name too complicated for this one's Khajiit tongue. Drovir believes they met during young Gallio's time away. But what does this old field hand know of such things? Unusual. Well, this one does not like to talk out of turn, but Drovir hears that Lady Valente wants to be more involved in running the vineyard, but Lord Valente refuses to include her. This one wonders why he even married her. He came back from his travels different.
Let's look more closely at those grapes. The scent wafting off those grapes. It's tantalizing. The new grapes are certainly unusual. Let's keep looking around before we jump to any conclusions. It appears the grapes did not agree with this death hound. Curious. Let's talk. Just as Count Ferrandis taught me, there is always something to learn if you simply pay attention. The field hand was attacked by a death hound, a sure indication of vampiric activity. And he provided a wealth of information. Don't you agree? So you were listening. Good. The field hand described Gallio as different when he returned. He developed a new grape to make him richer and more powerful, and he recently married a high elf, but the marriage already seems troubled. The grapes were developed using alchemy. They've been infused with blood, and I find the aroma tantalizing. But I dare not try one. Look what consuming the grapes did to the death hound. Our next step is to attend the auction. You shall be my guest. No, but I do. I shall be Master Bogvir, the vampire I took this invitation from, and you shall be my guest. The invitation allows for at least one guest and any mortal blood servants I wish to bring along. In fact, it encourages I bring some. The invitation indicates we're to head to the walled garden just east of the manor. I suppose that's where they're letting the guests gather prior to the start of the auction. Shall we proceed? Let's see. It promises an evening in the beautiful Colovian countryside, majestic views, new and innovative cultivation, a new vintage called Vesper Valente, the auction. Ah, yes. And this. Who says wine doesn't belong in a flask? I could be reading into things, but in some vampire circles, flask is used as a crude term to refer to a blood servant. Someone who willingly lets vampires feed on them, usually for compensation. Indeed. Though the vampire I acquired this invitation from wasn't the sort to rely on blood servants. He was extremely cruel. Preferred the thrill of the hunt and drank to kill. This event becomes stranger the more I try to make sense of it.
Halt! Your invitation, please.
Right, here you are.
Welcome, Master Bogvir, and guest. I'll escort you to Lord Valente, this way.
Totally unnecessary. I'll find him. Thanks. Just a moment. Let's talk first. So, do I look like a Master Bogvir? Probably not. But we work with the tools we're given. Let's split up and mingle. Talk to servants, guests, whoever's willing to chat. Anything that can tell us the true purpose of this auction. Vampires don't need wine, especially made from grapes that apparently poisoned a death hound. Try not to come off as too curious, though. We're supposed to be guests here, after all. I am. But as soon as we walked in, I was hit with sudden pangs of hunger. Not unlike when I smelled those grapes, but much stronger. Luckily, I carry a flask of blood for times of need. I'll just find an out-of-the-way spot to take a sip.
Can I offer you a glass of our new Vesper Valente?
Certainly. I'm very curious about this wine.
Really? You're the first of Lord Valente's guests to accept the wine. I hope you enjoy it. I'd offer you a glass, but your friend just took the last one. I wasn't expecting that. None of the other guests I've served this evening even tried it. Only their attendants and servants. It is. The vineyard's latest vintage, Vesper Valente. Lord Valente did tell us that his guests probably wouldn't want to try it before the auction, but that I should freely provide it to their attendants and servants. I have. Lord Valente was generous enough to let all the vineyard workers and servants have a glass before the guests arrived. It was salty and crisp, with a slight metallic aftertaste. Something to do with Lord Valente's alchemical process, I think.
Another one of my husband's guests. No, you're either an attendant or a servant, I'd wager. Who brought you to my husband's little affair? Pray tell. Master Bogvir, is that the name he uses now? You know, he bears a striking resemblance to an old acquaintance of mine. In fact, I'm sure of it. How is Fenorian? And why has he come to Valente Vineyard? No? And why don't I believe you? No, don't worry. I have no desire to reveal Fenorian's deception to my husband. Not before I learn what's going on here, the same as you. Be so kind as to let Fenorian know I'd like to speak to him when he's free.
Ah, welcome. I'm Lord Gallio Valente, the humble proprietor of Valente Vineyards and Winery. You, however, have me at a disadvantage. I do not believe we've met. Which of my acquaintances decided to bring you along as their guest today? Bogvir, of course. Where is my old friend? Still upset about that little incident? No matter. I was hoping to clear things up before the auction got underway. Send him over to talk to me the next time you see him. It's a little late now. I'll find him after the first round of bidding. As for you, bear in mind that the pleasures of my estate are meant for master vampires intent on bidding in the auction. Do not overstep your station.
Is this Vesper Valente really as special as it sounds?
Oh, Lord Valente is certainly proud of his new creation.
Wouldn't that be something?
You there! I am bored, and my hounds are hungry. Will the auction start soon, or must we continue this Colovian dance of manners and pleasantries while my gold sits unspent? Apologies. I mistook you for a Valente servant. Lord Valente is clever, and if the wine accomplishes a fraction of what he claims, the waiting will have been worth it. But I would prefer to simply buy what I want, and not deal with an auction. Remind you of the greatest innovation of our time? I see. The intoxicating effects of the wine on the mortals has already rattled your senses. Have no fear. I hear that we will be allowed to sample the vintage before we make any commitments.
I heard Lord Valente and his new bride loathe each other.
Why would he marry a mortal? It's beneath him.
This wine is specifically meant for the mortals here, not the vampires. So why are the vampires bidding on it? And why is my flask doing little to curb my rising hunger? Tell me you learned something more, my friend. I'm sorry? Did you say Lady Valente's name is Ursilia? Oh, she's that Ursilia. Should we leave? Maybe we can sneak out the way we came in. Right. We do need to figure out what's going on here. All right. I'll stay and talk to Ursilia. You head into the manor and see if you can find Lord Valente's office. Something in there might tell us more about the purpose of this wine. That's a story for another time, friend. Let's stay focused. You see what you can find in the manor, while I talk to Lady Valente. Don't worry. We can talk more later. In the meantime, go and search Lord Valente's office. He must have one inside the manor. Ledgers, journals, letters, alchemical notebooks. Anything that gives us some idea of Lord Gallio Valente's plans for the wine. Vampires can't drink it, but they're the ones invited to bid on it. We need to know why.
again. What are you doing in my husband's office? You and Fenorian, never in the right place at the right time. So, did you find what you were looking for? Share it with me, and maybe I won't call down to the winery for my husband's army of mercenaries. Let me see that journal. By the stars, he killed his own father, and he plans to kill me. Oh, he's a cretin and a monster. And yes, pouring wine into people just so you can eat them and gain unnatural power is pretty bad too. Damn it! I drank the wine! I suspected something was amiss. Since I arrived, we haven't consummated our marriage, and he spends his time down in the winery, locked in his alchemy laboratory with his mercenaries. Plus, he covets my family's fortune. But a vampire makes sense. This vineyard could be a motherlode in the right hands. My hands, friend of Fenorian, not my husband's. I assume you're here to stop him? Help Fenorian finish the task, and I'll forgive him for the affront he visited upon me and my family. Make sure you do. I have no intent to serve as a wine glass for my husband.
Ursilia, I suppose I owe you an explanation.
Of course you do, but I don't care. Just talk to your friend and deal with my husband.
All right, if you say so. Lord Valente is well and truly into the auction now, so we have a bit of time. I never expected to find Ursilia here with you, though. What did you discover? And what did she mean by deal with her husband? Interesting. He really spells it out, doesn't he? Alchemically enhanced mushrooms used as fertilizer for alchemically treated grape seeds. And the hunger. I wasn't losing control, it's an effect of the grapes. Well, that's a relief. That does seem to be the general idea. If we allow this to spread, the ramifications will be staggering. Even relatively peaceful vampires might be tempted to start killing out of hand. We need to stop this. What were you and Ursilia discussing? Oh, yes. I do suppose I owe her for that. I'm no hired assassin, but I do make a habit out of disposing of dangerous vampires. We will do what is necessary to end this threat. Nothing more, nothing less. And that begins with destroying the wine. Head downstairs and scout the area. I'll follow along shortly. I need to try to make things right with Ursilia. And maybe I have something in my alchemy kit to deal with the wine in her system. Just the smell of it makes me hungry. We were betrothed. A marriage arranged by our families. There might have been some affection there, but it was mostly a business agreement. When I became a vampire, I just left. I thought it would be a mercy. As much as I trust you and value your company, my friend, that's not a story I feel like sharing. Especially not here and now. Maybe someday. I hope you understand. No, I didn't want to hurt anyone I knew. Ursilia, my family. So I simply left. Eventually, Count Verandis found me and made me part of House Ravenwatch. Rivenspire is a long way from Somerset, and Westfield is farther still. I never expected this. I'm not going to go out of my way to kill Gallio, if that's what you're asking. We do need to destroy his operation, though. This elixir turned wine is too dangerous to distribute to aggressive vampire clans. What happens after that is up to him. Ursilia, before we talk, let me see if I've got anything that will flush the wine from your system.
I'm not drunk, Fenorian. I only had a glass or two.
You lead while I look around. Valente's journal said he had a coven of vampires. We should expect a fight. Captives, and apparently under the influence of the wine. Friend, let's speak. These workers must be some of the subjects Gallio mentioned in his journal. They're on the verge of turning into blood fiends. I might be able to mix a counteragent with the proper ingredients. Grape pulp left over from the Vesper Valente wine, wax flower petals to hasten the recovery process, and imperial oak tannins to make the remedy effective topically. Find those items around the winery while I make preparations.
blood vases for me.
When the time comes, I want my pick of the servants that will match him. Eat wine-sodden mortals and become more powerful.
Oh, good. I was starting to worry. I'm glad you're back. Did you find everything we need? Once I've brewed the counteragent, pick up the bucket and splash the remedy over our poor patients. It's not the most dignified way to administer medicine, but it works without putting either of you at risk. And that should do it. You're free to administer the cure. Looks like the effects are already subsiding.
You saved us. Please, you need to stop him. Thank you for helping us. Please tell me you're also here to stop Lord Valente. We really thought things were looking up. Lord Valente had such grand ideas for the vineyard and winery. He even asked us to try a new vintage he was working on. We felt so honored. Then we started to get sick, and he locked us down here. Yes, it's right through those doors. He's growing weird mushrooms and has all kinds of alchemical equipment. Destroy his equipment and burn the mushrooms. That should put an end to his vile experiments.
We need to destroy that laboratory. You scout ahead while I work on freeing these people. I'll meet you there.